The sun was just beginning to rise over Earth's atmosphere when the first tremors hit. It was the kind of day that seemed calm, serene even, with no signs of anything amiss. The people of Earth were going about their morning routines, unaware that the universe had just decided to test humanity's very survival. A flash of light in the sky quickly turned into a massive, blinding explosion as alien ships tore through the atmosphere. They had arrived, and they weren't here for a peaceful visit. The aliens, an advanced species from a distant corner of the galaxy, had been watching Earth for years. They knew of humanity's fragile defenses, their outdated technology, and their dependence on diplomacy. They had made calculations, assumed Earth would be an easy target, ripe for conquering, a planet too weak to resist. They launched the attack without hesitation, with no warning to the humans. Earth was simply another planet to them, a resource to be claimed. But as the first bombs fell, something unexpected happened. The people of Earth fought back. The first strike was overwhelming. Alien warships began targeting major cities, and humanity's initial attempts to counter were disastrous. The military was unprepared for the scale of the attack, scrambling to respond, trying to launch fighter jets and activate defense systems that had never been tested in battle. But despite the chaos, something in the human spirit stirred. In the command centers around the world, officers barked orders into communication devices, trying to make sense of the madness. A young officer, Captain Riley, stared at the screen in disbelief. A huge alien vessel hovered above their largest city, ready to release its payload. "We're not ready for this," Riley muttered, but her voice was drowned out by the panic around her. The military hadn't even engaged the enemy fully, and the damage was already catastrophic. Yet, amidst the confusion, Riley's team did something unexpected. They acted. With no time to waste, they jumped into action, using their limited resources in an attempt to hold off the invaders. Their first counteroffensive was chaotic. A handful of fighter jets managed to launch from a nearby base, and in a desperate maneuver, they attacked one of the smaller alien ships. It wasn't much, but it was something. And that small victory lit a spark in the hearts of Earth's defenders. Across the world, soldiers and civilians alike banded together. News reports showed the destruction, the lives lost, but also the people who had refused to give up. Humanity might have been overwhelmed, but they would not surrender without a fight. And so, while the aliens thought Earth would crumble, they underestimated the human resilience that surged to the surface. It was more than just the military. It was everyone. Civilians took to the streets, fighting with whatever they could. Some grabbed guns, others improvised weapons. People were determined to protect their homes, their families, their planet. Meanwhile, high above the Earth, the alien commanders watched in disbelief as Earth's defenders took their stand. "What's happening down there?" one of them demanded. "The humans should be fleeing, not fighting back." The alien fleets had expected panic, disarray, and quick submission. They didn't expect to see humans coming together, fighting with the kind of intensity that only desperation could bring. In the heat of the battle, it was clear that Earth was not going down without a fight. Riley, now leading the small group of military personnel, was coordinating strikes on alien ships. She wasn't sure they would win, but there was something in her eyes that told her they couldn't stop now. "We might not have their technology, but we have something they don't: our will to survive," she said as she watched an alien ship crash down in the distance. It was just a small victory, but it felt like a turning point. The skies above Earth were filled with the roar of combat. Human fighters, though technologically inferior, were pushing back against the much larger and more advanced alien ships. Every attack, every strike, sent a ripple of shock through the alien ranks. The aliens had underestimated Earth's ability to adapt, to fight with everything they had. They had underestimated humanity's one true weapon: their fierce determination to protect their home. Back on the ground, people were scrambling to make sense of what was happening. Some took shelter, others grabbed their loved ones and tried to flee the cities. But there was no safe place. The alien ships were relentless, and their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Yet, as the day went on, something strange began to happen. Human forces, though not prepared for a full-scale war, were learning. They were adapting. And the more the aliens pushed, the harder the humans fought. In the middle of the chaos, something else occurred, a realization. Earth wasn't just being attacked by an outside force. It was the beginning of a much larger conflict. But for now, all that mattered was survival. The people of Earth weren't going to lie down and die. They were going to show the aliens that underestimating humanity was a mistake they would regret. As night fell, the attacks didn't stop. Earth was reeling, its cities burning, but the spirit of resistance was growing stronger. Alien ships continued to fly above, their weapons lighting up the sky. But down below, humanity was learning to fight back, each small victory leading to the next. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and no one knew how it would end. But one thing was clear: the aliens had made a grave mistake. They had thought Earth was weak, an easy target. But they hadn't realized that Earth wasn't just a planet. It was home to a species that would never give up without a fight. The aliens had launched their attack, thinking they would conquer a defenseless planet. They had no idea what they were up against. And now, they were about to learn the hardest lesson of all. When you attack Earth, you awaken something in humanity that will never be silenced. The war had only just begun, and the aliens had no idea what was coming for them. The war had begun in the most unexpected way. One moment, Earth was in the midst of its daily routine, and the next, the sky was filled with strange, colossal ships. Humanity had no time to react before the first bombardments began. The alien invaders launched an unprovoked assault on Earth with no warning, no demand for surrender, just a sudden, devastating attack. The cities, the military, and the people were caught off guard. Chaos erupted as the first wave of alien weapons tore through the atmosphere, turning peaceful landscapes into war zones. People screamed in panic as buildings crumbled, and airwaves flooded with distress calls. Earth was under siege. However, amidst the carnage, the aliens made a fatal mistake. They underestimated Earth's potential to fight back. As the alien ships hovered above, their commanders expected quick and easy victories. Earth's technology was outdated, their military unprepared. Yet what the aliens didn't anticipate was the raw determination of humanity. Their initial strike was swift and merciless, but it sparked something deep within the people of Earth, a powerful urge to protect their home. Within the first few hours of the invasion, humanity's response began to take shape. The governments, in disarray, quickly realized they needed to unite, pooling resources from around the globe. Earth's military, while caught off guard, wasn't without its own strengths. Amid the panic, young soldiers, seasoned veterans, and civilians alike began to fight back, using whatever they could. Fighter jets took off, scrambling to meet the alien forces, even though their technology seemed laughable compared to what the aliens possessed. But the human spirit, resilient, resourceful, and fiercely protective, was more powerful than any alien invader could have imagined. In the chaos, a small group of resistance fighters launched a surprise counterattack. They didn't have the weapons the aliens had, but they had something even more important: knowledge of their own planet and a will to survive. They used the terrain to their advantage, setting traps, launching guerrilla-style attacks, and using the element of surprise to confuse and slow down the alien forces. For a brief moment, the aliens were caught off guard. They had expected an easy victory, but they found themselves fighting against a determined, unpredictable enemy, an enemy that refused to go down without a fight. As the battle raged on, the human spirit began to shine through. Resistance groups, armed with only the most basic equipment, managed to disable several alien ships. It wasn't much, but it was enough to send a message. Earth would not be an easy conquest. The invaders began to realize that humanity was fighting with everything it had, and it wasn't going to give up just because it was outgunned. News of these small victories spread like wildfire, sparking hope in the hearts of people everywhere. Citizens in every corner of the planet were inspired to take a stand, using anything they could find to fight back. Captain Riley, a military officer stationed in one of the last defense zones, watched in disbelief as her team successfully took down one of the smaller alien craft. It was a risky mission, with no guarantee of success, but they had done it. The alien ship had been destroyed, and for the first time in hours, Riley allowed herself a moment of triumph. They had scored a victory, no matter how small, but she knew that the battle wasn't over yet. This was only the beginning. As the days passed, Earth's defenses slowly began to regroup. Although the alien forces continued their relentless assault, humanity was learning, adapting, and innovating at a rapid pace. Every day brought new surprises, new tactics. The aliens couldn't understand it. How could this primitive species, this seemingly defenseless planet, be putting up such a fierce fight? They had expected easy pickings, but instead, they were facing something they hadn't accounted for: the survival instinct of an entire species. The alien commanders were frustrated, perplexed by humanity's refusal to submit. They had assumed Earth would collapse under the first wave, but instead, humans had rallied. The alien fleets began to question their initial assessment. They had expected the humans to cower in fear, to surrender as soon as they felt the power of the alien weapons. But humanity had done something far more dangerous. They fought back. Back on Earth, Riley and her team received word that more alien forces were approaching. Their victory was fleeting, but it had given them something even more important: time. Time to regroup, time to strengthen their defenses, and most importantly, time to prepare for the next wave of attacks. The world's leaders began coordinating their efforts, pulling together all the resources they could muster. They knew that if they didn't act quickly, Earth's fate could be sealed. The battle for Earth was far from over, and it had only just begun. The aliens had thought they could sweep across the planet with ease, but they had severely underestimated the strength of humanity. With each passing hour, Earth's defenders grew bolder, stronger, more determined. The aliens had launched an unprovoked assault, but now they were finding themselves in the fight of their lives. Captain Riley stood at the command center, looking out over the battlefield as the sky above remained streaked with smoke and the roar of fighter jets filled the air. The future of Earth was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity would never surrender, not without a fight. The aliens may have thought they could destroy Earth, but they had no idea what they were up against. They hadn't expected Earth's wrath, and now they would feel it. Humanity was ready to show them exactly what it meant to attack their home. As the night fell and the skies darkened, Riley made one final vow to her team. We're not just fighting for our survival anymore. We're fighting for our future, and we will win this. She didn't know how, but she knew one thing for certain: humanity's fight had only just begun. The aliens had made a grave mistake. They had launched an unprovoked assault, and now they were about to learn the hardest lesson of all: never underestimate Earth. The alien ships hovered ominously above Earth, their massive silhouettes casting shadows across the cities below. The initial shock of the invasion had started to wear off, and what remained was an overwhelming sense of defiance. Humanity was reeling from the sudden attack, but now they were finding a new kind of strength, a strength that would shock their alien invaders to the core. In the middle of the chaos, a group of soldiers gathered at an underground military base. Commander Lucas, a seasoned officer, stared at the battle maps in front of him. They came expecting an easy conquest, he said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. They thought we'd collapse under their firepower. But they didn't count on one thing. "What's that, sir?" one of the young soldiers asked, trying to keep his nerves in check. "They didn't count on us fighting back," Lucas replied, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the screen. "They didn't count on us showing them just how far we'll go to protect our home." It wasn't just the military that had started to fight back. As the hours passed, resistance groups sprang up across the globe. In every city, from the bustling streets of New York to the quiet corners of rural villages, people were finding ways to fight, armed with anything they could get their hands on. From makeshift weapons to old hunting rifles, they rallied together. Their attacks were uncoordinated, but the message was clear: Earth was not going to surrender. Meanwhile, the alien commanders were beginning to realize that Earth was not the helpless planet they had assumed. The first wave of attacks had caused significant destruction, but instead of seeing panic, they were met with resistance. Alien ships had been damaged. Their infantry were being ambushed in places they hadn't expected. Even the smallest human groups had become a thorn in their side. On the surface, the situation was dire. Cities were burning, military bases had been overrun, and the alien forces seemed to have the upper hand. Yet something in the air had changed. A quiet, persistent resistance had begun to grow, and Earth's defenders were showing no signs of stopping. Commander Lucas knew that they were far from winning, but the fight was no longer one-sided. The aliens had underestimated the power of humanity's resolve, and now they were realizing just how dangerous that could be. In the skies, the air was filled with the sounds of dogfights. Human fighter jets, despite being technologically inferior, engaged the alien ships in a way that no one expected. With limited ammunition and outdated technology, the human pilots relied on their training, creativity, and sheer desperation to keep the aliens at bay. Captain Riley, who had become a symbol of Earth's resistance, piloted one of these jets. As she maneuvered through the sky, narrowly avoiding enemy fire, she felt a rush of determination unlike anything she had ever known. She wasn't just fighting for survival, she was fighting for her people, for her home. Every moment, every second she remained alive was a victory. On the ground, the battle raged in the streets. Armed civilians, some trained and others not, did what they could to disrupt the alien forces. Some planted explosives in abandoned buildings, while others created barricades in the streets to slow down the alien march. They weren't soldiers, but they had the will to fight. Earth's greatest weapon wasn't advanced technology, or even military might. It was the fierce determination of its people. And the more the humans fought back, the more the aliens began to realize they had made a grave mistake. They had expected Earth's inhabitants to crumble. They had expected panic and surrender. But instead, they found themselves facing a planet united by a common purpose, with an unyielding will to survive. They were no longer fighting an easy conquest. They were fighting an entire species that refused to back down. As the days turned into weeks, the war took on a new shape. Human forces, now more coordinated and better armed, began to push back against the aliens. Earth's military leaders, learning from their early mistakes, developed new strategies to counter the alien technology. Their attacks weren't perfect, but they were effective. The aliens, for the first time, were beginning to feel the pressure. Commander Lucas stood before a large map, watching as the alien forces retreated in certain areas. "We're pushing them back," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're showing them what we're made of." But even as Earth's forces gained ground, the alien commanders were not without their own plans. They still held the advantage, and they knew that the humans could not keep up the fight forever. But what the aliens did not know was that Earth was just getting started. Humanity had tapped into a well of strength that they hadn't yet fully realized, and the aliens were starting to learn the true meaning of the phrase, "Don't underestimate Earth." Captain Riley and her squadron continued to fight, refusing to back down. They may have been outnumbered and outgunned, but their spirit was unbreakable. As she flew her fighter through the skies, firing on alien craft, she thought about her family back home. She thought about her friends, her people, and the life she would do anything to protect. And with every shot fired, she felt that fierce determination grow stronger. "We can't stop now," Riley said to her crew, her voice full of fire. "We've got them on the ropes. They may have started this fight, but we're going to finish it." The alien commanders, watching from their ships, exchanged uncertain glances. This wasn't going according to plan. They had underestimated Earth's will to survive. And now, they were beginning to realize the full extent of their mistake. They had attacked Earth thinking it was an easy target, but they had awakened a force far stronger than they could ever imagine. As the days passed, the tide of the battle began to shift. Human forces grew stronger, and the alien ships that had once dominated the skies were now being challenged by Earth's fighters. The humans weren't just surviving. They were pushing back. They had shown the aliens something they hadn't expected. When you attack Earth, you awaken something far more dangerous than they could ever have imagined. The fight for Earth was far from over, but humanity was no longer fighting just to survive. They were fighting to win. The aliens had launched an unprovoked assault, but now they were facing the full fury of humanity. And Earth was showing them exactly what it meant to attack a planet whose people would never stop fighting. The war between Earth and the alien invaders had reached a critical point. For weeks, the two forces had clashed with no clear victor, but something had changed. Despite the relentless onslaught of advanced alien technology, humanity was beginning to show its strength in ways that had surprised the invaders. Earth wasn't just a planet of civilians who lived under the quiet hum of their everyday lives. No, Earth had awakened a ferocity, a will to fight that no alien species could have anticipated. Commander Lucas had just received new orders from the Global Defense Coalition. The alien forces had begun to regroup, preparing for what seemed to be a final, decisive push. The humans were still far outmatched, but their ability to adapt, to think on their feet, was making all the difference. The initial chaos of the invasion had given way to a more organized, determined resistance. Across the globe, small victories were being won. Here, a base retaken. There, an alien outpost destroyed. The humans were fighting back, and the aliens were starting to realize just how difficult this conquest was going to be. "Sir, the new intel just came in," Lieutenant Moore said, breaking Lucas's concentration. "The aliens are preparing for a massive strike. They've been gathering their forces on the outskirts of the planet's orbit. Looks like they want to take out Earth's military centers once and for all." Lucas clenched his fists. The aliens had underestimated them at every turn, but now they were stepping up the assault. This was going to be the fight of their lives. "We can't let them take those centers," Lucas said, his voice unwavering. "Prepare for counteroffensive. I want every fighter jet in the sky. This ends now." As the orders were passed down, humanity's military began its final push. The fight wasn't just happening in the skies anymore. It was a worldwide effort. From the hidden military bases deep underground to the urban guerrilla warfare taking place in cities across the globe, Earth's defenders were united by a singular purpose. They had to push back, not just for survival, but for the future of their species. Meanwhile, Captain Riley's squadron had just received word of the incoming alien forces. The pilots, though still shaken by the loss of comrades and friends, had never been more determined. Riley herself had come to embody the spirit of Earth's resistance. It wasn't just about taking down alien ships anymore. It was about something much bigger. It was about sending a message to the invaders. It was about showing them that Earth was not some small, insignificant planet waiting to be conquered. It was about proving that humanity would fight back, no matter the odds. "We'll hit them fast and hard," Riley said to her crew as they prepped their ships. "This is our chance to show them they've made a terrible mistake. We may not have the firepower they do, but we have something far stronger. We have the will to protect our home." Her crew nodded in silent agreement, each one of them fueled by the same resolve. The battle for Earth wasn't just about military superiority. It was about fighting for the people they loved, the life they cherished, and the world they weren't going to let go without a fight. As the alien ships prepared to launch their assault, humanity's fighters gathered, ready to meet them in the sky. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the world holding its breath. This was it, the decisive moment. The alien fleet surged forward. their massive warships cutting through space with terrifying speed. It was a sight that would have terrified any other civilization. But not Earth. The humans had learned their lessons. They had adapted to the alien technology. And now they had a plan. The alien ships weren't invincible. They were vulnerable in ways the invaders hadn't considered. Riley's squadron took to the skies, weaving through the alien formations with deadly precision. They were outnumbered, yes, but the human pilots had something the aliens could never replicate: sheer instinct. Each move they made was calculated, each attack a gamble, but it was a gamble that paid off. One by one, alien ships began to fall. Their massive, advanced warships that had once seemed so unstoppable were now being disabled, their power grids torn apart by the humans' ingenuity. "We're making a dent," shouted one of the pilots over the comms. "They're retreating." Riley smiled, but it was a hard, determined smile. "Don't let up. We're not done yet." On the ground, the situation was equally tense. As the sky above raged with the fury of battle, the people of Earth did what they could to support their military. Some had created makeshift weapons, while others worked tirelessly to repair and maintain the fighter jets and ships that had been damaged in the earlier battles. It wasn't just the trained soldiers and pilots who were fighting anymore. It was every single person on Earth who had the strength to stand up and fight back. Commander Lucas watched the battle unfold from the ground, his eyes glued to the live feeds. Earth was still at a disadvantage, but the aliens were starting to retreat. They hadn't expected such a fierce resistance, and the more they fought, the more they realized they weren't dealing with a weak, defenseless planet. They were dealing with a species that would rather die than surrender. "We've got them on the run," Lucas said, his voice filled with pride. "But don't get complacent. This fight isn't over yet." The alien forces were regrouping, but Earth had taken the first step in turning the tide. For the first time since the invasion began, there was hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, humanity could win this war. Hope that the aliens would realize that Earth wasn't just a target. It was a force to be reckoned with. As the last of the alien ships began to retreat, Commander Lucas allowed himself a moment of quiet triumph. They had survived the unthinkable. They had fought back against an overwhelming enemy and lived to see another day. But there was no time to celebrate. The aliens had only just begun to feel the weight of humanity's resistance, and Earth's fight was far from over. The message was clear. Humanity had shown the aliens their wrath, and it was just the beginning. The battle for Earth had reached its most intense moment. Commander Lucas stood in front of a massive screen, his eyes scanning the latest intelligence reports. The alien fleet, once a seemingly unstoppable force, was now retreating, but their retreat wasn't without its own set of dangers. The invaders weren't giving up. They were regrouping, preparing for something even bigger, something they hoped would crush humanity's resistance once and for all. But Lucas had seen enough. He knew what had to be done. Earth had already shown that it could fight back, and now it had to show the aliens that it wasn't going to stop. Not now. Not ever. "We can't let them reorganize," Lucas muttered to himself, more to his own thoughts than to anyone else. "We need to keep the pressure on. If we let them regroup, they'll be ready for us when we least expect it. We need to strike now." Across the world, military commanders were receiving the same orders. Humanity was on the offensive. No longer were they scrambling to defend their homes. They were fighting with purpose, and their strategy was clear. Take the fight to the aliens, hit them hard, and hit them fast before they could regroup. Captain Riley's squadron, along with other fighter pilots, had spent the past few days striking at weak points in the alien fleet. Their success had been unpredictable, but now, with the alien forces weakened, the tide of battle seemed to be turning in humanity's favor. Riley was more determined than ever. "This is it," Riley said to her crew as they prepped their ships. "We've shown them what we're capable of, but now we need to finish what we started. We can't afford to be cautious. We have to keep pushing them back. Harder. Faster." Her crew nodded, fully aware of the stakes. The aliens had underestimated Earth's ability to fight back, but now they were beginning to understand just how strong humanity's resolve was. Riley, though filled with an unwavering sense of purpose, couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. The aliens had to have a backup plan. They always did. As she climbed into her fighter jet and began the pre-flight checks, she looked out the window at the horizon. For the first time since the invasion began, there was a sense of optimism in the air. They were winning. It didn't matter that they were still outnumbered, that their technology wasn't as advanced. The fighting spirit of humanity had become their greatest weapon, and it was one the aliens had not accounted for. The skies above Earth were filled with combat. Fighter jets flew through the clouds, weaving in and out of the enemy formations. Explosions filled the air as the alien ships were hit and destroyed. But the invaders weren't giving up easily. Even in retreat, their ships were relentless, launching attack after attack, trying to break through the human defenses. Their advanced weaponry, though overwhelming in power, couldn't replace the will to survive that the humans possessed. Riley's fighter darted through the chaos, narrowly avoiding enemy fire. She locked onto an alien ship and fired, sending the craft spiraling out of control before it plummeted to the ground below. Direct hit. Her wingman, Lieutenant Blake, cheered over the comms. "We've got them on the run." But Riley wasn't celebrating. She was focused. Every battle, every victory was one step closer to pushing the aliens off Earth, but the job wasn't done yet. She knew the aliens had a trump card. They always did. As the fight continued, the global resistance on the ground began to make its own impact. The guerrilla tactics, the makeshift weapons, the people who had been training for years for moments like this, were all working together. Humans who had never picked up a weapon before were now fighting side by side with veterans, taking down alien drones and sabotaging their supply lines. The courage of Earth's people had become a symbol of defiance that even the most powerful alien commanders could not ignore. Commander Lucas watched the reports come in from every corner of the globe. In places once thought lost, like New York and Tokyo, humanity's resilience was shining through. Cities were burning, but human fighters were not backing down. What began as a desperate struggle had turned into a full-scale resistance, and as the aliens faltered, their arrogance gave way to doubt. "They didn't think we could fight like this," Lucas said to his staff. "They thought we would fold, that we were too primitive, too divided." They didn't realize that the strength of humanity comes not from advanced weapons, but from our unity and determination. On the alien flagship, high above Earth, the alien commanders were growing restless. Their initial arrogance had led them to make miscalculations. They had underestimated humanity's ability to defend itself, and now they were beginning to see the price of their mistakes. Commander Yuthar, a tall, imposing figure with piercing eyes, paced angrily in the command room. "They're more resilient than we expected," Yuthar said, his voice cold and unfeeling. "The Earthlings are putting up a fight, but we will break them. We must." His officers nodded, but there was a growing unease in their eyes. The situation was quickly slipping from their control. Despite their superior technology, the aliens were starting to lose their grip on the situation. Humanity's unexpected resistance was proving to be far more effective than they had anticipated. Back on Earth, Riley and her squadron continued to engage the alien forces, launching wave after wave of attacks. The battle was far from over, but with every passing hour, the aliens were retreating further. And as the human forces pushed forward, there was a growing sense of hope that they might actually win this fight. "Keep pushing," Riley said, determination in her voice. "We've got them now. They may be stronger, they may have more ships, but they don't have what we have. They don't have Earth's will to survive." As the alien forces continued to retreat, the ground forces on Earth took full advantage of the momentum. Cities that had been on the brink of falling were now being reclaimed. The Earthlings were not just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to win. Commander Lucas, watching from his command center, allowed himself a small smile. We've shown them that Earth doesn't back down. Now we finish this, once and for all." The final battle was drawing near, and the aliens were starting to feel the weight of their miscalculations. Earth had proven one thing beyond all else. When you attack humanity, you're not just attacking a planet. You're attacking a force that will never stop fighting. And now the aliens were about to feel that force in its full fury. The fight for Earth was about to reach its most crucial moment. The final stage of the battle had arrived. Humanity had pushed the alien invaders back, but the war was far from over. The alien fleet, though weakened, was not defeated. Commander Lucas stood in his command center, watching the latest reports flicker across the holographic displays. Every update confirmed what he feared most. The aliens were planning something devastating, a final, all-out assault that would take everything they had to survive. Lucas could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. His military leaders were preparing for what would likely be their last stand. Earth's defenses were stretched thin, and the aliens had begun consolidating their forces for one final strike. "Sir, we're ready for the counteroffensive," Lieutenant Moore said, her voice steady but laced with tension. "All fighters are prepped, and ground forces are in position. It's now or never." Lucas nodded, his eyes darkening with resolve. This was it. There was no retreat, no second chances. If they failed now, Earth would fall, and humanity would be lost forever. He thought about his family back home, his friends, his fellow soldiers. They were all counting on him. "Execute," Lucas said, his voice firm. "Give them everything we've got. Let's show them the full might of humanity." Across the globe, the call to arms went out. Military units, once scattered and disorganized, now moved with deadly precision. Fighter jets surged into the sky. Ground troops rallied to their positions, and underground resistance forces activated their final strategies. Every human on Earth was ready for this moment, no matter what it took. Captain Riley and her squadron were already in the skies, prepared for the fight of their lives. Their mission was clear: break the alien fleet's formation and disrupt their attack. The stakes couldn't have been higher. If they succeeded, they could force the invaders to retreat entirely. But if they failed, the aliens would sweep through Earth's defenses and bring the war to a horrific, tragic end. "All right, team," Riley said, her voice calm but determined as she spoke to her squadron over the comms. "We've fought hard to get here, but this is where we finish it. We're going to make sure they regret ever stepping foot on our planet. Stay sharp, stay focused. We hit them hard, and we don't let up." Her wingman, Lieutenant Blake, responded, his voice full of adrenaline. "You got it, Captain. We take them down, no matter what." The alien fleet had begun its final offensive, coming at Earth in overwhelming numbers. Their warships, massive and terrifying, filled the sky like dark, impenetrable clouds. For the first time, the humans felt a sense of dread as they faced the might of the invaders. But humanity's strength wasn't in its firepower alone. It was in the hearts of the people who were ready to die for their home. Riley's squadron dove into the chaos. Blasts of energy erupted around them as they weaved through the massive alien ships, narrowly avoiding deadly laser fire. Riley's hands gripped the controls, her every instinct guiding her through the storm. With every alien ship they destroyed, the remaining invaders began to show signs of hesitation. They hadn't expected this kind of resistance. Earth was supposed to be easy pickings, but the humans had defied every expectation. The aliens, though technologically superior, couldn't overcome the grit and determination of the Earth's pilots. Riley's squadron struck fast and hard, dismantling the alien ships one after another. Despite the heavy odds stacked against them, humanity's resolve was breaking the alien line. But Riley knew that the aliens weren't going to let this fight go so easily. This was their last chance to crush humanity, and they were going to throw everything they had at Earth. "Captain, we've got a problem." Lieutenant Blake's voice crackled over the comms. "Their reinforcements are coming in. A massive fleet is approaching from the far side of the planet. We won't be able to hold them off for much longer if we don't get some backup." Riley's heart sank. She had hoped that the alien retreat would be complete, but now, it seemed, they were preparing for a final desperate charge. She wasn't sure if Earth could withstand another wave. But there was no choice. "We hold them off, Blake," Riley said, a fierce determination in her voice. "We don't stop until they're gone. We've already proven they can't break us. Let's show them just how much we've still got left." Below them, on the ground, Earth's soldiers were also facing an uphill battle. The alien assault had hit hard, targeting key military installations and infrastructure. But Earth's ground forces fought like never before. Guerrilla tactics, hit-and-run strategies, and makeshift weapons, these were the tools humanity used to survive. Commander Lucas observed the battlefield from his command center, his eyes narrowing as he watched the global reports pour in. Earth's defenses were holding, but just barely. The aliens had pushed the human forces to their limits. Lucas's mind raced as he processed the data. He knew that humanity's survival depended on this final push. It wasn't just about fighting back anymore. It was about sending a message. Earth wasn't just a target to be conquered. It was a force that could not, and would not, be broken. "We're doing it," Lucas said, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around him. "Keep the pressure on. We can't stop until they're gone." With the final wave of alien reinforcements approaching, Captain Riley's squadron fought with everything they had left. Her fingers were raw from gripping the controls, her mind sharp from the adrenaline coursing through her veins. But she wouldn't stop. Not now. Not when Earth was this close to victory. And then, it happened. The aliens, seeing their fleet begin to falter, started to panic. They hadn't expected this level of resistance. It was more than just humanity's fighting spirit. It was the sheer will to protect their home. The invaders had underestimated what Earth would do when pushed to the brink. "Now's our chance," Riley shouted. "Hit them hard. This is the final blow." The human fighters, with one last surge of strength, tore into the alien fleet. One by one, the massive warships fell from the sky, their advanced weaponry rendered useless against humanity's unrelenting will. As the last alien ship was destroyed, a silence fell over the battlefield. For the first time in months, Earth was at peace. The fight was over. But even in the aftermath of victory, Commander Lucas and Captain Riley knew one thing for certain. This battle had proven one of the most important lessons of all. Earth wasn't just a target. It was a force that no alien army could ever truly conquer. Humanity had fought back against all odds and emerged victorious. The aliens had learned the hard way that when you attack Earth, you're not just attacking a planet. You're attacking a will to survive that can never be defeated. The stars were silent, but the message they sent echoed across the galaxy. Humanity had won, and the aliens would never forget the wrath of Earth.